When the director took on Batman Begins, he had only planned on making the one film. Yet here he was 8 years later, finishing up a trilogy. Still, he was hesitant about making the finale. Plus, if the director had been planning on shooting a third movie, he would have changed the plot of the previous installments. For example, Aaron Eckhart wanted to return to the role of Harvey Dent, but the plot of The Dark Knight didn't presume to have a sequel, and Christopher told the actor no.
You can look me in the eye and tell me you're sorry.
The studio wanted to return the Joker, especially since there was some unused footage left over, and they had the option of using CGI. But Chris thought that bringing back the character would be a disrespect to the memory of Heath Ledger, and turned the idea down.
I wanted to see what you'd do, and you didn't disappoint.
Then the executives suggested that they bring the Riddler to the big screen and invite Leonardo DiCaprio to play him. However, Chris thought that the Riddler was an obvious copy of the Joker and decided to use the character Bane for The Dark Knight Rises.
Bane. Let's not stand on ceremony here.
The antagonist was played by Tom Hardy, who had impressed Christopher in Inception, and who finally convinced him to watch Bronson. Tom entrusted himself to the director and agreed without even reading the script. Hardy put on over 20 pounds of muscle mass and spent a year learning martial arts. His inspiration for the role was Bartley Gorman, the king of gypsy boxing, and he borrowed his moves and dialect for the character.
See, you can't be a fighter if you're afraid of anyone.
Now's not the time for fear. That comes later.
Christopher also brought with him Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Marion Cotillard from his previous
Bruce,
picture.
if you want to save the world, you have to start trusting it.
I'm trusting you.
Doesn't count, you have no choice.
The director wanted the actress to play Miranda Tate on the screen so badly that her pregnancy was of no consequence. He simply moved the shooting dates so that she could participate. Yes, the shooting of a $250 million project was delayed for 6 months, and Marion started working 4 weeks after giving birth.
So why waste my time, indeed?
Finding someone to play Catwoman was much harder. Many actresses hoped to get the role, but only Anne Hathaway, Jessica Biel, and Rooney Mara made it to the screen tests. Funnily enough, Hathaway had no idea who she was supposed to play. Before meeting Christopher, she thought that she was going to play Harley Quinn.
It's me. Oops.
At the beginning of May 2011, the director went to India. They were working on the underground prison escape scene in Jodhpur, and as for filming the interior, they built a set almost 100 feet high.
So we certainly built a very, very large set, but it plays as even larger with the way we shot it with wide angle.
Then the team went to Pittsburgh, which replaced Chicago in playing the city of Gotham in the previous pictures. But they actually switched location for another reason. The Civic Arena was supposed to be demolished. Nolan hoped to turn it into Gotham Stadium and blow it up on camera like the hospital in the previous movie. Unfortunately, the arena found itself in the middle of a lawsuit, and the demolition was approved only after the shooting was over.
Maybe the time isn't right.
The executive producer, Thomas Tull, who also partially owns the Pittsburgh Steelers, saved the day. Thomas gave the crew permission to shoot on the Steelers' home field and even blow it up. The Gotham Rogues were played by professional athletes, and the Steelers' coach almost got blown up in front of thousands of extras on set. Bill Cowher gave a speech to the crowd and then ran to a room under the bleachers across a field loaded with mines. The coach got lucky, and Nolan's love for visual effects gave the film an unforgettable scene. By the way, the extras were all wearing winter coats, even though they were shooting in the heat of summer, which means that anyone who wanted to participate in the new Batman movie had to be ready to sweat. The most difficult scene to coordinate was the one on Wall Street. The finale of the trilogy required more than 1,000 people to gather on one street.
And I looked at them lined up, and I said to Brandon, second AD, and gosh, it's not really enough. And then somebody said, oh, actually, that's just half of them.
These weren't just extras. These actors rehearsed for 2 days, and every person's actions were carefully choreographed. On set, there were also scores of makeup artists, stylists, and administrators who thought through every minute of that day.
And that whole operation, makeup, hair, wardrobe, props, and breakfast, was done so that at 7 o'clock when the director walked on the set, he had 1,100 people in position.
There was an incredible spirit in what they did, an incredible spirit to those extras. I really felt like a great sense of fun, a great sense of energy.
After Nolan blew up a football field and held an epic battle on the city streets, car explosions and road demolition don't seem so impressive. The director once again stuck to his guns and avoided computer graphics. They even filmed the chase on the Batpods and the flight of the Batwing.
The longest one we did was 600 feet of travel, the emergence of the Bat.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a code.
Leaving out CGI was more expensive, not just because of more shooting time. For example, Anne Hathaway's Extra crashed into a $500,000 IMAX camera. And the Batwing lost a wing when it collided with a road sign.
Whoa!
At least the CIA plane used in the intro scenes made it out in one piece.
It's a very large-scale action scene. Which at first blush I think people would assume was done with some degree of visual effects. But much more than anyone would ever realize was done for real.
This was harder than it seemed because the stunts were all performed in real life. The only exception was the barrel roll and explosion, which were filmed separately and then combined in post-production. That scene introduced Bane and also created controversy around a certain cameo. Fans believe that Nolan, knowing that Matthew McConaughey would star in the next film, had him play the pilot. This theory is supported by the lack of the pilot's names in the credits.
That I say, all right.
Christopher shot almost an hour and a half on film using the IMAX cameras and forbade the studio to convert the footage into 3D.
I've paid you a small fortune. This gives you power over me?
Spreading the love of film became Christopher's mission. Nolan held a private showing of the first 6 minutes of The Dark Knight Rises for a few extraordinary directors, including Edgar Wright, Michael Bay, Jon Favreau, Bryan Singer, and Eli Roth.
I wanted to give them a chance to see the potential, because I think IMAX is the best film format that was ever invented. The message I wanted to put out there was that no one is taking anyone's digital cameras away. But if we want film to continue as an option, and someone is working on a big studio movie with the resources and the power to insist on film, they should say so. I felt as if I didn't say anything, and that we started to lose that option. It would be a shame.
I'm home again.
The director's words display an exquisite understanding of the relationship between technology and the viewer's desires. Tickets to the IMAX version in New York were sold out 6 months before the premiere.
This is a stock exchange. There's no money you could steal.
Really? Then why are you people here?
As always, Nolan filled the picture with many allusions. The plot of the film was based on Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities, the fight on Wall Street inspired by gangs of New York. Bruce Wayne's doctor treated Sammy Jenkins 12 years prior.
It's a test, Sammy.
We'll test this, you fucking quack.
The residual concussive damage to your brain tissue and the general scarred over quality of your body, I cannot recommend that you go hella skiing, Mr. Wayne.
And the introduction of The Dark Knight Rises mimics the beginning of License to Kill.
Take the load!
The creators of the new James Bond film returned the favor when they based Raul Silva on Bane.
Peace has cost you your strength. Victory has defeated you.
You see what comes of all this running around, Mr. Bond? All this jumping and fighting. It's exhausting.
Once again, Chris and Wally Pfister created a visual masterpiece, but it was time to say farewell. After 12 years of collaboration, the cinematographer embarked on his own directing journey.
Is there a soul? And if so, where does it reside?
Christopher supported his friend in his new beginning, and even produced his debut film, Transcendence.
While it was a large project for a first-time director, it was too intriguing for me to pass up.
Well?
I'm fine, Evelyn. I'm online.
John Newton Howard also left Nolan's team. After Hans Zimmer and Chris worked on the soundtrack for Inception without him, he felt like a third wheel and left the team. The last installment of the Batman Trilogy premiered on the 20th of July, 2012. It was greeted with commercial success. The film made more than $1 billion at the box office, in third place after The Avengers and the aforementioned Skyfall. Critics and audience loved the movie, but the Academy did not. For the first time since 2002, Nolan's film did not receive a single Oscar nomination. So Chris's prediction about trilogies came true after all.
So that's what that feels like.
Despite this, Chris did not rush to leave the DC universe. In fact, that very year he had been working on the screenplay for a new adaptation of the Superman comics. Warner Brothers had struck gold and were not about to squander Batman's success. David Goyer and Christopher wrote the text and gave it to Zack Snyder. The director received complete creative control over the project, and Chris and David stayed on as artistic consultants, and were able to insert aspects of Batman into the movie.
People are afraid of what they don't understand.
This is a world you never understand, and you always fear what you don't understand.
Hey, do you like our work? Let us know with your like and comment. Push that subscribe button and share with your friends. If you want to support the project financially, become our sponsor on Patreon or YouTube sponsorship. Thank you.